Welcome to the first ever Giants World YouTube video. Most of you are probably from my Instagram page, so if you are from there, I really appreciate it. Hopefully you share the video and like the video. And if you are, leave a comment down below so I know you are from my page. Without any further notice, let's get right into it. So, John Mara had a press conference today to end the 2021 season. And he had a couple of quotes. The quotes I found interesting, I'm going to share in this video and give my opinions on. And then towards the end of the video, I'll go over Joe Shoen, who had an interview with the New York Giants, John Mara, Steve Tisch, and surprisingly, Chris Mara, who is John Mara's brother, was involved in the Zoom call. These candidates who will be the finalists will be brought in next week for an in-person meeting. So whoever, impresses in Zoom meetings will be here in New Jersey next week. So without any further notice, let's get right into it. So the first quote I want to bring up is this one right here. Mara said that no package deal with coach and GM, wants complete process. All right, so, I kind of expected, I didn't expect this, but I felt like this was necessary. Just because you bring in a GM doesn't mean he's just going to bring in his pal from his old team. I think that John Mara, and, he wants a thorough process and, research on the guy that they bring in. And I feel like this is how it should be because, before, later on, he mentions that, in past years, they've just, brought in people, haven't done much research, haven't talked to people. And because of that, we're having the troubles we are having right now. So if they go on with the process and actually do a thorough, research and, actually look into these guys and not just, hone in on one guy that, okay, this guy's from the previous team of the GM, so we'll just bring him on. No, you want to look at guys from other teams. Let's say if we bring in Joe Shoen, who's from the Bills, he'll probably want to bring in Brian Dable, who's a great candidate for head coach. But, if there's other guys, if there's better guys out there, you rather also bring in them, see how they fit with the team and with the new GM, and if they're fit with this culture. We always bring up the word, but they have to fit with the philosophy you're trying to carry out. So the next quote we have is this right here. John Mara is speaking now. Okay, so this was at the time. I haven't given fans any reason to believe I'm going to get it right this time around. We have to earn back the fans' trust. And at this point, he's speaking facts there, and there's no lies there. He's lost the trust. We don't expect much from Mara. Hell, I didn't even expect him to fire Joe Judge, and him firing him, I think he's getting back on track. He's earning back at least my respect. Hopefully yours too. We can't completely put our trust in him because that's not, one move doesn't really define someone. It doesn't define that, they've changed. Up to a point, John Mara was like, all right, we're going to bring the Joe Judge back. He's definitely coming back. And then, in a couple weeks, not even couple weeks, couple days, he's changed his mind. So, he was on the verge of keeping Judge, but, I think the fans really influenced that. So I think this time it worked. This time around it worked. Hopefully we could get them to fire Kevin Abrams and maybe even Chris Mara, or at least, have him not have a big say in the Giants organization. The next quote we have is this one right here on if John Mara on if there was a last straw with Joe Judge. He said he wasn't thrilled with the 11-minute press conference, but there wasn't one specific act that was the last straw. It was a accumulation of things. Said the Giants had dug a hole and he didn't see a path out of it. My thoughts on this, I think he's right. Obviously the 11-minute press conference was not ideal. The quarterback sneaks on second and third down. That's not something you want to see. That shows that your coach doesn't have faith in his players. Yeah, I know. I get we have Jake Fromm, who's a third string quarterback, probably shouldn't even be on a roster. Should be a practice squad guy. We have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. Not one of them. We do have the worst offensive line in the league by far. It's not even up for debate. We don't have the weapons. Galladay was out there. I think Slayton was out there, but do you really trust those guys? We saw Galladay not making that one, stretching out for that one catch. Not going to put it on him, but not completely put it on him, but do we really trust these guys? But as a coach, those are your guys. Those are your players. You should have trust in them. That's why they're out there. okay, let's say you don't want to throw, you don't want to risk, an interception or a fumble or even a safety like last week it happened, but maybe just hand it off to Saquon, see what he can do. Let's see if he falls back 2-3 yards. You're still good. You can still punt. I mean, if you're at the 5 yard line, if you go back a yard, it's not going to really affect your punt, the space to punt. I mean, you're not going to have ideal punting, the field position, but you weren't there to begin with anyway. So I'll just hand it off to Saquon in that instance. But, as John Mara said, it was a bunch of things combined. I think at the end of the day, Joe Judge really dug himself in this hole. He had his job safe, but, with the 11-minute rant and a lot of other things, I think he just ruined it for himself. It's like he wanted to get fired, obviously not, but that's what it seems like with him at this point. It makes no sense because he had his job. He went out and said some dumb stuff, did some really questionable moves that, even Aaron Rodgers took a shot at Joe Judge with the decision with the 2 quarterback sneak. So not a good look for Joe Judge. The next quote we have is, John Mara said that Chris Mara spends most of his time doing evaluation of college players and he participates in the draft, but all of personal decisions have been made by the GM and head coach. I think part of this is true, but I think it's also a lie because I think Chris Mara, being a Mara, I think he holds a good amount of power. Not saying that he's gonna overrule the GM, but the GM's gonna have to take into consideration what he's saying just because he's John Mara's brother. You're not gonna totally discard what he has to say, but that kind of sucks because that really influences what a GM's his thinking process. He's like, if the GM wants to do one thing, but then you have the owner's brother in your ear, I mean, you're gonna get influenced no matter who you are. So I mean, I don't know if he could get fired just because he's Mara's brother, but there's been a lot of a backlash on Chris Mara, but I mean, I don't think so. He's going anywhere soon, so that's the lost clause. The next quote we have is, John Mara said this is the lowest moment in his ownership of the franchise. I kept thinking we hit rock bottom, and then each week it got worse. This is completely true. It's crazy because he's thinking like a fan there, honestly, because we've been saying that we feel like it can't get worse, but then we realize we're the New York Giants and it does get worse. It's kind of funny, the negative 10-point game, and then we have quarterback sneaks on 2 straight plays in your own territory. It just makes no sense. So a lot of questionable moves the Giants have had so far, but Judge is gone, Dave Gettleman's gone, so we're gonna have a fresh start, a new chapter. I feel like we say this every single time there's any type of change, that it's fresh start, but this time it really is. It's a clean slate. New GM bringing his own guys, hopefully get to build his own scouting department, not just coaching staff. And I feel like Joe Shoen, the guy we interviewed, is a perfect guy to do that. So yeah, the next quote we have is, John Mara says Chris Mara. Oh wait, is it the same one? Yeah, it's the same one. As for whether he needs to show more patience with his GMs and head coaches this time around, John Mara said, I very badly wanted to do that this year, but I just didn't see any end in sight. So he wanted to keep Joe Judge. Obviously, Dave Gettleman retired, so that was never in the question. Never a question to begin with. Even if he didn't, he was getting fired. So just because you could have said that he was supposed to get fired last year, but Joe Judge really saved his job. So kudos to Judge there. But this year, he dug his own grave, couldn't save his own. So that sucks for him, but got to move on. He really wants to show the media that, the Giants are a functional team, that we just don't have coaches and then fire them after 2 years. That's really, you do want to do that, but when you don't have the guy, what's the point of keeping him? Because let's say you have him this year and then next year, you're going to fire him, and then the new GM you bring in this year is just going to be handicapped. It's just going to be handicapped in a way because then the new GM will probably bring in his own guy. But if you're firing Judge, that probably means the new GM is already on the hot seat because we didn't do good, which you don't want. We kind of saw that with Dave Gettleman. So it just doesn't work out that way. You just want just want a new chapter, a fresh start. Let the new GM bring in his own guys. Just if you're gonna fire the GM, just fire the entire coaching staff, or at least the GM. I mean, at least the head coach. There's no point in keeping guys and just hoping it works out. Because when you have a head coach who's on the hot seat and you bring in a new GM, that's just a 40 million for a disaster. It just won't work out ever. Unless if you have a guy like Bill Belichick, a head coach, then it's a different story. But we don't have Bill Belichick, even though John Mara thought that, this is baby Belichick or baby Parcells. That's just not the case. Next quote, and I think this is the last quote we have about John Mara. This is not really a quote. It's really Dan Duggan really digging deep and thinking that, finding similarities between this year and 2018 and 20. I'll read it to you guys. A lot of what John Mara said today felt familiar to 2018 and 2020. There's cause for hope due to this expanded search for a GM, but ownership is 0 for 4 on GM/head coach hires since 2015. As John Mara said, he hasn't given any reason to believe he'll get it right this time. Obviously, he hasn't hit on any of these coaches, McAdoo, Shermer, Judge, and hopefully hits on the new guy this time and the hits on the GM, because if not, we're screwed. Don't expect anything to like 2030, but hopefully that does not happen. 2018 was different. I mean, it wasn't really different. We had McAdoo and Reese fired, so that was a fresh start for us. But we saw that they didn't do things right that way, and it was not all on Gettleman. It was some of it fell on Mara. He felt that we still had Eli Manning at the time, so he felt that we could win with Eli, so that's why he drafted Saquon. And then you delay that entire rebuild the entire year, and then we started in 2019, and you tried to win. You traded away Odell, but you try to rebuild, so you traded away Odell, but then you make signings like, we needed left tackle, but Nate Solder, just giving a contract like that made no sense. But it just they thought we could rebuild and win at the same time. I think we've all been over this. It just does not work. And this year, hopefully, we're not going to be able to win. Let's be realistic here. This next coming year, 2022, 2023, the season's not going to. We could make the playoffs, sneak into the playoffs, but we're not going to make a run for a Super Bowl. So just rebuild. Jones is still here. You want to build around him. Don't draft a quarterback this year. Wait until next year, or unless if Jones pans out this year, plays like a top 12 quarterback, then you could think about extending him. But don't draft one this year, even though it's a possibility now, with there being no ties to Daniel Jones at all. But Mara. As for Mara, I think he's really, he's changing the way he thinks. The fans really got to him, and I'm glad they did, because Mara's really a stuck-up guy. He thinks, based on the things that's happened in the past, he feels like that could work nowadays. And if it is going to work, stick with the things that worked before. Why not? Why fix something that's not broken? But it's their philosophy, the way they approach everything has been broken, just not working in the modern era. So, it's just not going to work in today's day. They're going to have to find someone who's a young GM, or someone who at least has a modern approach. Obviously age is not the biggest factor here, but you just want a guy who has a modern approach. Joe Judge is young. He's only 38, one of the youngest head coaches at his time in the NFL, but extremely old philosophy, and he feels like the defense has to carry. He realized that the offense was a problem, but the conservativeness it was really a red flag, because let's say you bring in the guy that you want on at OC and your offense is average or so, but if Joe Judge is still going to be conservative, it's just not going to work out. The sneaks were not on Freddie Kitchens, so do not blame Freddie Kitchens for that. That was all Joe Judge. He decided to QB sneak twice in a row, second and third down, so it all falls on him. I think he could still be a head coach in this league. I think he has all the qualities to become one, but I think he needs a team where the GM is a great GM, a roster that's already, has talent on the team, has younger guys, also has a couple of veterans, kind of like the Giants, but a talented team, not just a young team. You need young talented players on that team for Joe Judge to succeed. and a team that has a great offensive philosophy, because Joe Judge does not have one. Okay, so now let's go on to Joe Shoen, the guy that the Giants interviewed on Zoom today. He is 42 years of age, so it's still pretty young. For GM, that's actually really young. We see Tom Brady still playing in the NFL. He's 44 years old, 43 or 44, so pretty impressive for Joe Shoen. He has 20 years of NFL experience. He joined the Buffalo Bills in 2017. Before that, he actually worked for the Miami Dolphins. So I guess you could bring up the Brian Flores connection, but Shoen was not there when Flores was there. But, obviously he has guys probably in touch, which, it could give him valid information about Flores. Obviously, we know he's a great coach, but, there's a reason why he did get fired. If you had, problems with upper management, then you want to take a look at that, because, the coaching is there, he knows how to coach a team. But if there's problems, you could always reach out to guys you knew in Miami. Joe is Brandon Beanes, who is the Bills GM currently. He's his right-hand man. I think, their responsibilities, obviously, Brandon has all this complete say, but, I think Joe Shoen has a lot of say. I think he can, influence their GM currently, and I think he has, because, his philosophy is building through the draft. We've seen guys recently, they've drafted guys like Gregory Rousseau, Carlos Basham, AJ Epinesa, Ed Oliver, Tremaine Edmonds, Wyatt Teller, who was a 5th-round pick, who's actually a pretty good offensive guard with the Cleveland Browns right now. They've even, Brian Dawkins was one of their picks, a guard. Tre'Davious White was one of them. So, notable guys up here. And these guys, not just over the last 2-3 years, these guys been drafted a couple years ago. So it really shows that these guys know how to draft. And that's what you really need nowadays. When you have no cap space, you're gonna have to build through the draft, especially when you're rebuilding. You're gonna have to bring in guys with contracts that you're not paying them that much. And good thing we have 2 first-round picks this year. And if he does become the GM, I think he'll take full advantage of that with all the early round picks we have. So that's something that's something to look out for. He was actually hired by Parcells in 2008, I believe, for the Miami Dolphins. He praised them a lot too. This is a quote this is what he had to say about him. I was impressed with Joe because he was a sharp guy and he had a good thought process when it came to evaluating players. Parcells said in an interview with Athletic. So that's some great stuff you want to see about a guy that the Giants are, interviewing. Maybe Parcells has, just because Parcells hired him, maybe Mara looks at it, okay, this guy might have some talent. He knows what he's doing. So that's really important for Joe. What else do we, he's one of the top candidates. He's one of my top 3 candidates. He's totally up there. Ed Dobbs would be number 1 guy, but I think we haven't even requested to interview him. I think the Colts probably would just decline. So, Joe Shoen is definitely top 3 for sure. Other guys would be Adam Peters and maybe Joe Ortiz, who's on the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens always know what they're doing. They always have a great team, great defense. Their offense is, it's really modern. Their offense is really modern. So, if you get a guy like Joe Ortiz who's on the Ravens, he's going to know what he's doing. He's going to bring a new element to this team, and the offense. He's going to see the offense has been struggling. So, he's going to try to do everything in his power to improve it, because people are going to compare the Ravens to the Giants and be like, oh, the Ravens have obviously have Lamar Jackson, but you're going to expect the GM to address the offense. They always have a good offensive line. So if maybe, either one of these guys might address it in the first round. I think that's going to do it for this video. My first ever video. Let me know how I did. Hopefully not too bad. But again, thank you for watching. Drop a like, drop a comment. Please subscribe. Turn on the bell notifications to know when I post. And yeah, see you in the next one.